Hello. Today's lesson is percent of change. We use percent of change in real life, figuring out how things change. What percent from the original amount does stuff change? Do amounts change? All right. And so we are going to go on to our next slide. So you will be on slide 106 here. Okay, so starting on slide 107, we see percent of change, and we will set these up as a proportion. And so when we set these up as proportions, you can see here, this is how we will continually set this up. The amount that we originally start with will always be on the bottom. Percent also is on the bottom, because if we paid 100%, or if we started with 100%, we would start with the original amount that we had. And so that makes sense that those two would be across from each other. How much something changed will go up here, and then that will equal the percent that it changed. And so those two items are identical as well. Okay. So going on to the next slide, we see here, so gas in the last few years has gone up considerably. And so it says, find the percent of change in the cost of gasoline from 1970 to 2010. Round to the nearest whole percent if necessary. So I see here 1970 is my original amount. Okay, so $1.30 is my original amount, and it will go on the bottom. Now back then, that was 100% of the price. Okay, so we know $1.30 is 100%. So we ask ourselves, what happened? What happened from then to 2010? And so we see that it went up. Well, it went up, but by how much? And so I do a little math here, and I take $2.95 minus $1.30. And we find out what happened. And we end up with $1.65. $1.65 what? Did it go up $1.65 or did it go down $1.65? And the answer is it went up $1.65. So we call that an increase. All right, so we want to find the percent of increase. And so we want to find that side over there. So remember, we do not know the percent. We are finding that out right now. And I use my cross products, and I find out that $1.30x equals $1.65 times 100, which ends up being 165. So we divide by $1.30 on each side, multiply problem to undo and multiply. It's a division, so I divide by $1.30 on each side, and we get something like 126 point blah, 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 blah. We round that because it says round to the whole percent if necessary. And so we see that the cost of gasoline increased to $127%. Now I know it's an increase because over here I said that it went up $1.65. So this is an increase of 127%. Okay. So the thing that we need to make sure that we know whether it's an increase or a decrease, and we need to know the original amount. Okay. So Yusuf buys a DVD recorder for $280. That's the original amount. Okay. And so $280 goes on the bottom. If I were to pay that back in whenever, that would have been 100% of the price. Okay. Now it's on sale for $220. What happened? Well, 280 minus 220 means it went down $60. Okay, so if it went down $60, this percent I get up here is going to be the percent that it went down. And it says round to the nearest whole percent if necessary. So my equation looks like 280x equals 60 times 100, which would be 6,000. All right, so you get your handy dandy calculator at this point. And on your handy dandy calculator, you are going to undo the multiply that's there. And so you have 280x divide by 280, divide by 280. These cancel out to be 1, and you have x equals 6,000 divided by 280, which should give you 21.4. All right, so the percent of change, did this go up or down? The answer is down. We know that from over here. So it was a 21.4 0.4, and they want to know whole percent. So this rounds to just 21%, and we need to tell decrease. 21% decrease. Okay? All right, so then we have some, okay, so we have some here, and we have the percent of change from 10 yards to 13 yards. Okay, the original amount here, the original amount is 10. And so 10 goes on the bottom. What happened from here to here? Well, it went up 3 yards. All right, 10 yards is 100%. And I use my cross products. And so I know that 300 equals 10x, because that is your x. Divide both sides by 10, and so you get x equals 30. 30 what? Well, it goes on the percent side. So it's a 30%, look back over here, increase. 30% increase. All right, letter B. The price, let's change pen color here. The price of a radio was $20. Okay, that's the original price. It is on sale for $15. What happened? Well, what happened was it went down $5. Okay. At $20, it was 100% price. I know 3 out of the 4. I now can multiply, and I get 20x equals 500. Divide both sides by 20, and you have x equals 25. 25 what? Well, let's put it back in for x. It's on the percent side, so it would be 25%. Now look and see what happened over here. This was a decrease, so this is a 25% decrease. And so we need to make sure that we use the plus and the minus there appropriately, so that way we know what it is that we are doing. Okay? All right, so let's go on to the next slide. Now, we want to know percent error. Okay, so exactly the same thing, the actual amount and then the amount of the error. Okay, so we will set up our proportion exactly like that. Notice there is an actual percent of error video here for you as well. All right, so finding percent of error is similar to finding the percent of change. Instead of finding the amount of increase or decrease, you will find the amount, an estimate is greater or less than the actual amount. Suppose you guess that there are 300 gumballs in a jar, but there are actually 400. So we know that the actual amount is 400. Okay, what happened? Well, you guessed 300, so you were off by 100. Okay, and so you will set that up to a percent. If you had guessed 400 exactly, you would have guessed 100% spot on. And so when we use our cross products here, we end up with 400x equals, and we divide both sides by 400. And we end up that x, simple way here, equals 25. 25 what? Well, we're on the percent side. 25% error. Percent error. Okay? All right. So looking at the rest of these, the main idea here is that A, you are going to set these up as a proportion every single time. 100% will always be on your percent side. Your original amount or the actual amount will always be on the bottom next to the 100. So if the estimate was 230 and the actual amount is 245 goes on the bottom. And we ask ourselves, what happened? Well, what happened was I was off by 15. So in this case, I was off by 15. So we do our cross products. 245 equals 1500. 245x equals 1500, and we divide both sides by 245. So we want to make sure we answer the question, what happened? All right, folks, I need you to go back and make sure that you are practicing on these future slides. And so you see here we've got some percent of change. Make sure you know that that's a percent of increase or a percent of decrease. You have some more examples here. Make sure to also practice on IXL. We've got word problems and percent of change. And that's all she wrote, folks. Have a good day.